YouTube, what is good? So today we are talking about two of my personal favorite topics, happiness and photography. Now for me, I personally look at photography as a creative outlet that can bring a lot of joy, a lot of happiness, and a lot of value to not only my own life, but everyone else's life out there. That's the reason I make these YouTube videos. I just love the idea of me taking my own information, taking my experiences, putting it out in the world, someone else finding it, applying it to their life or their photography, and having a better experience and finding that joy and that value in their life that I am talking about. But unfortunately for a lot of photographers, myself included over the last few years, everything on today's list is based on my own personal experiences. A lot of photographers have a difficult time finding this intersecting point between their photography and their happiness. And today I'm going to talk about why. Like I said, everything in today's video is just based on my own experience, and we're not talking about anything clinical. We're not talking about medical disorders that can affect your happiness or anything like that. Those are obviously serious, and I never want to downplay those. So I want to make sure I make that very clear before we get going today. But if you enjoyed today's video, do me a solid, hit that thumbs up button, especially if you're enjoying these more discussion-based videos. If you haven't caught on to the trend of the channel, we're doing one vlog, discussion video, vlog, discussion video, and interestingly enough, the discussion videos are performing a lot better on YouTube for whatever reason. Maybe it's because y'all can, go to a different web browser and just listen to me talk, but whatever the case is, thank you guys for supporting the channel. It's been going really good lately. So let's get into it. The first thing is the most interesting to me, and it is a concept called hedonic adaptation. Now, the first time I heard about this was in the book called The Guide to a Good Life, or The Guide to the Good Life. Can't remember the exact title. It's a philosophy book about Stoicism. It's a fascinating book. But essentially, hedonic adaptation is this idea that everything that is once new eventually becomes familiar. So every experience you have as a human seems exciting the first time you do it, and then over time, as it becomes familiar, it loses that same excitement and that same appeal. Now, a good example of this is, let's say you go to a restaurant and you get this new dish that they have, and you're like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever eaten in my entire life. So you start going back to that restaurant 3 times a week for the next few months. Eventually, you're going to lose the satisfaction for that particular meal, and you're going to have to take some time away to make it less familiar so it can go back to being the best meal you've ever eaten. Now, the same concept applies with photography in 2 ways, one positive and one negative. Now, the negative way that unfortunately a lot of people fall into is with camera gear. A lot of people think, if only I get this new lens, if only I get this new camera body, if only I can do this, XYZ, I get a drone, then I'm going to love photography again. And you're right, for a finite amount of time. You see, eventually that excitement, that newness of whatever it is you're buying wears off, and you're back in the position of, well, if I sell this, I can buy this. If I do this, I can do this. And you just keep going in this never-ending circle because you're not actually finding the happiness and the excitement in what you're making. You're finding it in the easy answer, which is changing the condition around it. I've been here before too, where you think that by taking action, you're going to change the way you feel about something, where instead you should focus on the way you feel about something and then take the action afterwards. So when it comes to photography and things like that, if you're sitting around thinking, if I buy a new camera, I'm going to be happy, you're going in reverse. You need to be thinking, how can I be happy with my photography? And then I'll pick the right gear that makes the most sense for me. See what I'm doing there? I'm finding the positive thought before I take action instead of taking action thinking it will lead to positive thoughts. That's I wasn't planning on talking about that, but it's a little extra cherry to throw into the video. Hit the thumbs up button, please. So it's important to just understand that this thing happens in our brains and recognize when it might be hijacking our thoughts. So is that new lens you're buying something that you actually need, or is it just an effort to make photography feel new and exciting again? And then it's up to you to interpret if that's actually a bad thing or not. But I think for a lot of people, they don't recognize what mindset they're in, and it leads to this unhappiness. Now, for me, a way that I keep photography interesting without having to buy things or make changes to what I'm using is constantly just focusing on the craft itself, trying to get better, trying to grow as an artist, and always looking at my work as something that is work in progress, something that's growing, something that I can continue to build upon. So that hedonic adaptation is not applied to my condition anymore. It's applied to my actual skill level, which I think at the end of the day is a positive and is something that can help a lot of people continue to find happiness and renewed excitement in the things that they're creating. So real quick, before we get into the second thing I want to talk about today, I quickly want to thank our sponsor today, Cuts. So Cuts is premium men's apparel designed for every occasion. And Cuts is one of the newer sponsors on this channel, but they're quickly becoming one of my favorites for that exact reason. I literally wear these clothes almost every single day. I mean, within the time we added them as a sponsor to now, they have become one of the most high value brands in my life because of the versatility and ease they give me when I'm getting dressed. Basically, I have a Cuts t-shirt that I can wear for every occasion. I wear the black and white t-shirts to the gym constantly. That's like my go-to gym t-shirt. My favorite cut on that one is the split hem. It looks really dope with like gym shorts because it's cut up on the sides, but then longer in the front and the back. I can wear it around the house. I can wear it during a YouTube video, and still look professional and not like a bum because Cuts doesn't focus on over-the-top flashy logos or flashy designs. They keep it minimal and they focus on the essentials, the materials, and the lay of the clothing. I'm telling y'all, when you put on a t-shirt that's actually cut and designed properly, it is a completely different experience. So if you're a man watching this video or you have a man in your life who might be like me and doesn't want to be over the top with the way they dress but still wants to look professional and feel professional, Cuts is the brand I recommend, and today they are hooking everybody up with 15% off their first order. Just go to the link down below in the description, and they have a lot more than just t-shirts. They also have polos, which are fantastic. They also have hoodies, which if it wasn't a million degrees here in Atlanta right now, I would definitely be rocking one of those. So I really appreciate anyone who uses that link. It helps support the channel and helps the business of this whole thing continue to move forward, and thank you to Cuts for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to it. Number 2 on this list is one that's unfortunate, and it is jealousy. Now, jealousy is one of these things that is a very natural human emotion, but unfortunately, jealousy is usually an indicator of what you actually want. Okay, if you're jealous of somebody, usually you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm jealous because they're living the life or doing the thing that I want to be doing and I'm not doing it. Now, here's the thing. Everyone's life takes different terms. Some people have different levels of luck. Life is one of these things. It's a roll of the dice. You can't control very much of it, but there are elements of it that you can control. And for me, I've always found that getting jealous is just an indication that maybe I'm not putting my energy in the right place. Maybe I'm putting my energy into focusing on what other people are doing. Maybe I'm putting my energy into making excuses. Maybe I'm putting my energy into not holding myself accountable. And the thing with that is it requires a level of self-awareness, and it also requires a level of patience if we're applying this to photography. No one gets to the point they want to be at overnight in their career. No one gets to the point that they want to be at in their skill level of their hobby just by a snap of their fingers or just by thinking about it. It takes practice, it takes time, it takes dedication, and like I said, it takes a little bit of luck. Some people get from point A to point B in a lot less time than someone else, and there's nothing you can really do about it. But at the end of the day, wouldn't it be better to put your energy into growing as a person and trying to improve your craft and make better pictures? And if you want to become a professional photographer or have a business around it, putting your energy into reaching those two goals rather than putting your energy into being upset that someone else has what you want. And like I said, this is a completely normal human thing. Everyone does this. It's just important to have the self-awareness to see that this doesn't do anything good for you. So if you're a photographer out there and you want to be happy and you find yourself also being jealous, those two things can't really exist at the same time. So maybe put your energy into something positive, like getting yourself to the place that you want to be at. So instead of being jealous of somebody, you might actually end up being one of their peers down the line. That happened to me. It's crazy. There's a lot of people who I know now, who I consider like friends, who at a certain point in my life, I might have been jealous of, or I might have thought I'll never be at that point. And I've just put the time in and stuff has worked out. So feel free to let me know if you want me to expand on that one in the comments at all. Now, the third thing I want to talk about today might be the most important of today's video. Now, early on, I talked about how photography and creativity can bring a lot of value to your life if you let it. It's one of these things where the act of creating something just feels so good. And you can have the worst week ever. You can go out and make photos. And if you make something great, it can erase all the negative feelings you had the entire week because you feel like you did something. feel valuable, you feel good. Now, what's unfortunate for a lot of photographers out there is they can miss out on this feeling of happiness and joy in their creativity if they let their own personal insecurities move into their art and creative life. Meaning, if you don't like yourself, it's almost impossible for you to like the things that you're creating. And this happens to so many artists, myself included. I've been through times like this in my life as well, where you just hate every single thing that you're making. And you got to sit down and ask yourself, do I hate the things that I'm making, or am I just unhappy with who I am as a person? And you got to dig into that and you got to explore the reason why. And one really big indicator of this that I think a lot of people miss out on is how you talk to yourself. When you go out and make photography, are you looking at the back of your camera and saying, yo, I suck, yo, my pictures are bad, I'm never going to be good? Are you speaking to yourself negatively? This is one of the biggest indicators that, maybe it has nothing to do with your actual photography, and maybe it has something to do with how you're viewing and perceiving yourself. And it's a real shame because, like I said, photography as a creative outlet can bring so much joy and so much happiness to times in your life where things might not be going that great. But you have to allow yourself to find that light and find that positive turn in your thoughts to be able to say, life is not going great right now. I'm having a tough time. Work sucks. My family's bothering me, whatever the case may be. But I am going to go out and make photos and I'm going to make something great and it's going to make me feel better. What might happen is all those good thoughts in your creative life might move out into your personal life and improve your personal life as well. So the fourth thing we got to talk about today is kind of like a snowball effect. Actually, it usually starts here and then all the things that we talked about previously start snowballing afterwards. And it's that photographers don't make time for their craft. Now, we just got done talking about how photography and creativity can make you happy and bring a lot of joy to your life. But unfortunately, as life gets busy, it's probably one of the easiest things to put on the back burner. It becomes unimportant to worry about yourself. I have all these other things that I have to worry about. And unfortunately, by not making time for photography or your creativity, you're actually not making time for yourself. I'm going to say that again, okay? By not making time for your craft or your creativity, this thing that makes you happy, you're not making time for photography. You're not making time for yourself. And when you don't make time for yourself, it's extremely difficult to be happy. How are you going to find happiness if you feel like every single thing you're doing is for reasons outside of yourself? And for me personally, I found that this is where so much of the negative feelings around art and creativity come from. Basically, you stop making time for yourself, you stop making time for that thing that makes you feel good, then you start looking at other ways to maybe make yourself feel good quicker. Maybe I should buy a new camera, maybe I should buy a new lens, but then maybe you can't afford that lens or you shouldn't buy it, and that turns to jealousy and enviness of other people saying, this person can only do that because of X, Y, and Z. Look at how easy they have it. When in reality, all those negative feelings would go away if you prioritized yourself. So photography is something you love and it brings a lot of enjoyment to your life and brings you happiness. Take the time to figure out a way to make it possible. And that might mean getting up an hour early. And that might mean, changing up some plans with friends. Maybe that means one less hour a week to go out drinking with your buddies. Whatever it is, if it's important to you and it provides you with value, figure out a way to make time for it. And you're going to get rid of a lot of those negative, anxious feelings that come with you knowing deep down that you should be doing something and taking care of yourself, and you're not. And once again, this can apply to every aspect of your life, not just photography. It can apply to eating like shit, or it can apply to not getting enough sleep. Doesn't really matter. Now, the fifth and final thing that happens to a lot of photographers is that photography becomes their only interest. Now, I see nothing wrong with loving photography. Obviously, I have a giant YouTube channel where it's all I talk about, but it can become an issue when it is the only thing that you have in your life that can provide you with some value. We keep talking about value in this video, and with photography, a lot of stuff is up to chance. You might want to make the best photos you can on a particular day, and a random rainstorm rolls in and ruins all your plans. Now, that's not a big deal if you have other hobbies. You say, hey, all right, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to get swole. That's what I like to do. If it's a bad photo day, it can be a great day at the gym. This is that old concept of not putting all your eggs in one basket. If photography is the only thing that can make you happy, there's a chance that when it goes wrong, it's going to make you really, really upset and really sad. Whereas if you kind of spread out all that value amongst a couple different things, it's easier for one to have a good day and one to have a bad day, and you can keep yourself balanced. So that's the final thing I want to talk about. It's pretty brief, but I do see it happen to a lot of people where photography becomes their only hobby, and then they kind of get jaded towards the craft itself, because when you go through those periods where you're not really feeling inspired or you're not feeling good about it, it really negatively impacts them. Whereas if they had another hobby or an interest to fall back on, they can say, I'm gonna put the camera down for a month and I'm gonna focus on weightlifting or running in my case. And then when you get inspired again, you can pick the camera back up and it's like a fresh, new, exciting thing. And also the nature of photography itself is that it's kind of introverted. You spend a lot of time alone, whether that's in editing or focusing on an actual photo when you're out. Even if you go as a group, when you're actually composing an image, you're usually like ducked off by yourself. And the nature of that all the time might not be the greatest for you. So it's good to have some other hobbies that maybe you can talk with other people about, or hobbies that just get you around other people a little bit more than photography does. Once again, hit the thumbs up button on today's video, subscribe if you are not yet, and feel free to contribute to the conversation in the comments. If you think there's anything else you can add to this video, drop it down there. Y'all are the truth. I'll see you next time.